Greetings, this is John Delancey, and you are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net.
How does this?
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off. What are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
Turn it to this!
Hello, Jennifer.
Kevin? Wait, so you're the one who's making all the decisions here?
Were you expecting a man?
Yeah.
I possess the most advanced entertainment algorithm in the world, and it produces near-perfect products.
Near perfect.
Or better than others. But I leave that debate up to the internet.
What? Duck News Banner, melted by gamma rays.
Brainiac, what is it? Look, I just want some pants. A decent pair of pants.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off. What are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
Morphin' time!
Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
My spider senses are starting to tingle.
Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said,
It's clobbering time.
Welcome, true believers, to another episode of TWIG Sunday Funnies. I am the Captain America of our trio today. Following my name is the other two-thirds of the Trinity, the Thor to my Captain America, Mike.
Yay! I'm Chris Hemsworth.
Yes, you're the most sexually attractive man of the three of us. Be happy. And
Awesome.
Following Mike is the Tony Stark, because he's technically inclined and that much closer to NYC than any of us.
Yeah, this is very true.
It's Ken from this anime, and oh boy,
so
I don't know.
I'm only sounding this positive, folks, because I chugged a Bang energy drink before we started recording, because I need to get some sort of positivity in me, be it chemical or otherwise. And Ken and Mike might not sound too thrilled, because we're going to be talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what the ever-living fart is going on. Now, let's just talk, to start it off, let's talk about one of the biggest stones around the Marvel Universe's neck right now, and that's Jonathan Majors. The last time I read up on this guy, he's the trial's still happening, but it seems like society is starting to lean a little more his way now in their quote-unquote belief that he did no wrong.
Yeah, at this point, it's like people just want to get the trial over with, and Disney was very smart. They said, "Hold up, we're just gonna let everything settle once it's all done. Then we make a judgment call." They're not pulling a James Gunn on this.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up, because the last time I checked, the trial's gonna happen, I think, later this year, early next year. I forget.
It's right around. It's like right before Loki season 2 starts airing, I think.
So this year. And I also read the former girlfriend that brought all this calamity down upon his neck may or may not have skipped the country.
Oh, great.
Which I don't know how that's either helps or hinders Major's defense. And the reason
I mean, that kind of helps his defense in a way.
Well, it could be law of unintended consequences, but and you mentioned James Gunn, which is I was going to mention that is I'm surprised. I'm glad, but I am honestly surprised that the House of Mouse learned to
anything.
Well, yeah, but the fact that the House of Mouse learned not to drink the Kool-Aid again after that BS with, I mean, James Gunn. And for listeners that don't know, when James Gunn got fired post Guardians 2 is because somebody and their bots spent a weekend digging through his 10 years worth of Twitter and found the few things that would get him in trouble, which stuff that he had already acknowledged and apologized years before. And I said then, like I'm saying now, Disney has warehouses, multiple acres of lawyers who look into shit. You're telling me you guys didn't know about this stuff before you hired the guy that directed Tromeo and Juliet? Get bent.
I mean, one of the big things that we kind of want to talk about with this MCU WTF, which is kind of what we're like kind of calling this, so we're not a new spin-off of NCIS or something. Okay, so we all can agree that Marvel created this amazing, astounding, interconnected universe beginning all the way back with Iron Man 1, concluding with Avengers Endgame, basically dubbed the Infinity Saga, about the gathering of the Infinity Stones, fighting Thanos, concluding with Avengers Endgame, more or less, or I guess Spider-Man No Way Home after the snap. Basically, yeah. So we're talking more or less...
Spider-Man Far From Home... No Way Home is technically part of Phase 4. Far From Home is the last post-Endgame.
Yeah, so we're trying to talk about the new, multiversal saga, which is Phase 4 and 5. And the reason we're talking about this is specifically, how do you follow up what is arguably one of cinema's greatest blockbuster accomplishments? Almost every movie there was loved. A lot of them made a lot of money. A lot of new stars were made, and it really made going to the movies exciting again. It made this whole cultural zeitgeist where everybody cheered in the theaters for Avengers Assemble. We all dug that. All of us were there. But now things have changed, and now we have Disney Plus TV shows. We have multiple movies coming out a year, maybe not so much post pandemic, but we have a steady stream of Marvel content, and things have changed. And you might be wondering what we mean. Like JT was alluding to with Jonathan Majors, the guy who plays Kang in Ant-Man and Quantumania. He's been charged allegedly with domestic assault. And that case is quietly just kind of gone out of the public consciousness. He's supposed to be the main antagonist in Loki season 2, or at least have some very big part to play in it. But the thing that we came to this conversation, and we've talked about this on previous Twig shows, and now it's time to really open up that big can of multiversal worms, is way back when in the Infinity Saga, there would be water cooler talk. Like, oh man, did you see X? Did you see this? Captain America, the Winter Soldier is the best thing ever. Black Panther did something for Black America. Look how cool they made Ant-Man be. It was all water cooler talk. It was exciting to be a Marvel fan. Phase 4 and 5, things have changed. And things have kind of started to shift the other way. Now, whether that's leadership at Disney Marvel, I don't know. I'm going to suspect something has changed in the executive and creative executive, but things are different now.
We know actually there was a shift in creative executive stuff, because you have when Chapek took over Disney a couple of years ago, he basically put these middlemen in charge of content production, and that was the exact opposite of what Iger did when he took over from Michael Eisner. He got rid of the middlemen and let the creatives be creative and do their shit. And that, I think, is the point where it's just like, what happened to Marvel was simply the pandemic happened, and that caused a whole that basically caused the entire production line to literally break. Like they had a full on break. And then we have the strikes going on right now, which is also causing them to break as well. So I think the strikes are doing Marvel a favor by them stepping back and saying, look, this is what we have already in the can. This is what we can do this is what we have in production right now. This is what we've got in pre-production right now. Let's try and conjigger some things, try and make sure that we have something that is relatively a through line going through it now. I'm hoping after the Marvels, which is the last major production in terms of movies
for this year. Yeah.
For this year, not only this year, but before they took a step back and said, hey, let's look at what we've got right now, which is a mess, and kind of fix things. We're going to see... I don't think Deadpool 3 is going to necessarily... Deadpool 3 is going to be its own thing. From what I can tell from set photos and stuff, it's going to be Deadpool kills the Fox universe, and that's what that plot is going to be, and that's that stuff. But the new Anthony Mackie, Captain America Brave New World, that's when everything is going to start falling into place. We're not going to see that. They're probably going to end up pushing that.
That'll be 2025. No way it's coming out next year. No way.
Oh, hell no.
If they solve the strikes in time, supposedly they want to finish out the strikes and get that all settled by October. And if that happens, we might see it just get pushed like a month or two. And maybe it's a fall 2024 and not July.
If that was a holiday movie, I think that would be a smart move. Release that either beginning of December or November and capture that audience. And because I want to
say let's push it. Say Captain America Brave New World gets pushed. We push that into Thunderbolt spot, which currently is set for December 20th of next year.
Yeah, that is definitely moving up. Like, there's no way that's making next year either.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
looking at
obviously everything's just going to start trickling down and whatnot. But again, no official announcements yet because strikes are still going on. They don't know when they're going to settle this. They want to settle by October. Here's hoping.
So, to talk about the multiversal saga, we're going to talk about the movies kind of as a very loose bit, and then we'll talk about the Disney Plus stuff. So this thing started with Black Widow back in 2021, then it was Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, then we had Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. And then Phase 5 started with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 of the Marvels, which Ken just said. Then we have Deadpool 3, Cap, Thunderbolts, Blade, and then Phase 6 will begin with Fantastic Four and then conclude with Avengers the Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars. So my point I'm going to make here, and then I'm going to toss it out to the room, is looking at the movies we've seen, water cooler talk, the cultural hype that surrounded these things, the things that people were excited for. Phase 4 and 5 very much meandered in finding what is the next big villain. Like, there are, like, in most of those movies, I can recall them talking about Thanos or something in passing at least once or twice, always going back to what has happened previously, which is fine. That's the way life works. You talk about what has already happened to you. But most of these films had something wrong with them in some capacity. Like, Black Widow was about 3 to 4 years too late. The character is already dead, which sucks. Shang-Chi, while an awesome martial arts movie, Simu Liu had some problems on social media during that time. That took a little bit of fire out of that movie. Eternals is one of the most divisive Marvel movies I've experienced. Yep. Spider-Man No Way Home was the water cooler talk because of, the 3 Spider-Man movie, which that secret was fairly well kept, but it was always speculated. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse.
It was the unsung secret that everyone knew, but were willing to let them try and hide it.
Yeah. And then Doctor Strange had a lot of neat potential, especially once all the leaks started coming out about, the Illuminati and Professor Xavier and Reed kind of Richards and Captain Carter. Thor Love and Thunder was Taika Waititi being Taika Waititi. Black Panther Wakanda Forever had a lot of problems, not just because Chadwick Boseman had passed away, unfortunately, but its lead actress, Letitia, I can't remember her last name.
Letitia Wright.
Yeah, Letitia Wright came out as an anti-masker, and I think she's a flat earther too. So that certainly didn't help things.
She has interesting beliefs. Let's put it
that way.
Yeah.
So, and then Phase 5, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. The only reason you knew bombed, and if you didn't watch Loki season 1, which again we'll talk about the TV shows in a minute, you don't know who this guy is. So they set up the big bad in a movie nobody saw. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I haven't seen, but from what I understand, it stands alone. The Marvels resets everything back to the status quo with Nick Fury in space and, hey, I'm helping out Sword and blah, blah, blah. And everything else is we haven't seen yet other than a couple of like set photos and Hugh Jackman's hanging out with Ryan Reynolds. Cool. So I think the big problem with phases 4 and 5 is there's no through line like the Infinity Saga. Nobody gives a shit. There's a couple of cool moments, but outside of us three here, if I ask someone, hey, what was the coolest thing in Shang-Chi? I guarantee you maybe 2 people out of 10 might be able to say something. And I really think I'm being generous.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. So I'm going to open this back up to the room. Looking at what we've seen, what are the water cooler moments and what is still in the cultural zeitgeist now?
Yeah.
I think out of all of them, Wakanda Forever is probably the only one that people talk about.
I'd say Spider-Man.
And Spider-Man, obviously.
Yeah.
It's at currently that Black Panther Wakanda Forever is the one that people are still talking about. But I remember a lot of people talking about, Shang-Chi and Spider-Man, Doctor Strange at the time. And honestly, I don't recall. I know Simu Liu got. I don't remember exactly.
He got some shit, but it wasn't really that big.
Yeah.
He got over it fast.
Yeah. I still love the fact that he essentially got the role because he kind of good-naturedly trolled Marvel. Like, guys, Shang-Chi movie, huh? And then, holy shit, I'm Shang-Chi. I love that about him. And he was honestly one of the best bits on Kim's Convenience. Or did I say that right?
Yep.
God, it's been a minute since I watched that. Yeah. My biggest problem with the Phase 4 movies, like, I dug Black Widow, because it was a straight up kind of Marvel actiony movie. We get, I enjoyed it. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I enjoyed it.
Fine.
We got the magic that is David Arbor as Red Guardian, who is easily my Joe Grizzly. Stealing that from one of my favorite podcasts, to know that is my favorite character in the movie. Him and Iron Maiden, Rachel Weisz, which is, I believe, is a comic character name, because that whole scene where, they go to see their mom and like 5 minutes later, she's got this full spread on the table. My great auntie Carrie was exactly like that. That one was 100% Ukrainian. That is 100% accurate for the culture. But
yeah, like my main problem with Black Widow is that its last act is a mess.
Visually, yes. And also, I really don't have a problem with a woman being Taskmaster. Taskmaster is, in the comics, one of my favorite villains. It's just having her being essentially brain damaged and then, experimented on by her father to give her the abilities is just have her be. I don't advocate this in real life, obviously. Have her be gaslit. Don't have her be worked on to give her this ability. Have her have this, natural, physical mimetic ability.
Be more like actual Taskmaster.
Yeah, like a little comic accuracy. Because Olga Kurylenko, some might know her as the prostitute from the Timothy Olyphant Hitman movie. I knew her more as the Bond girl in Quantum of Solace, which I think is a little underrated as a Bond film. But I have no problem with her performance. It's just that aspect, and that's really going forward over the movies and some of the TV shows, is Kevin Feige might be in control, but he's not in the writer's room steering the ship anymore. And we have this narrative drift because, like Mike said, there's no real through line. We've got ostensibly it's supposed to be Kang, but have you guys ever heard of the YouTube channel Screen Crush?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. They Ryan Airy is the main guy on there. I mean, there's other people, but he's always the one on camera. They have several videos talking about where the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going. And one of his recent videos, he brought up the idea that the big bad going forward, at least for a time, is going to be President Thunderbolt Ross. Like,
yes.
We're talking
Jack Red Hulk, basically.
Yeah.
I think what's happening is that everything is being split into different pieces. Like the MCU is being split into so many different pieces right now that we can't see where everything is connecting because there's so many different pieces. Like Eternals, we still don't know what the heck happened with that. We still don't know where that takes place in just the timeline in general. At this point, it seems like it's gonna be taking place. I think there's rumors that the Marvels has a sequence that takes place in a civilization that's built on the remains of that Eternal
baby.
Eternal baby. Maybe I don't know. It's interesting.
From what through my own viewing and watching, Screen Crush videos in other places, it's pretty much post Blip, and the only reference that I've seen outside of what I've read through like fan forums and shit is if you have to screen cap and zoom in on a computer screen in one episode of She-Hulk, and it's talking about this giant island that looks like a statue in the middle of the Pacific, but they've really never touched about that otherwise. And like I said, narrative drift, because you got Eternals, which is based on Jack Kirby's setup via the whole
and it's also and also it being like the most controversial.
Oh yeah,
you either hate it or you don't, or you either hate it or you love it. I'm in the love camp.
I don't know how to feel about it.
I'm in the love camp. So
yeah,
it's like when I'm just looking at my MCU list. Like I have a full MCU list with all the TV shows and whatnot. Overall, the mixture of some of the just looking at the movies in general, since we're just talking movies at this point, I like Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, but I'm a big Sam Raimi guy, and B, a big Doctor Strange mark. He is my favorite comic character, period. So
I found Doctor Strange got better on subsequent viewings. The first time I watched it, I didn't like it. I've watched it 2 or 3 times since release, and I find I like it a lot more now than I used to.
Yeah, there are different through lines. When you get the name Multiverse of Madness, you go like, "Oh, that sounds
interesting."
It elevated the thought process in our heads while we were waiting for the movie to come out, and it doesn't necessarily deliver all of that. I think it is much more grounded than anyone expected it to be.
Yeah, because they bring in, because obviously we know the second Avengers movie is Avengers Secret Wars, which is almost assuredly, I'm going to say, Doom, but I believe it's going to be borrowing very heavily from the Secret Wars 2015 versus the original 1980s crossover.
Definitely going to be the more modern Secret Wars over.
But they introduced the concept of incursions, which is one universe encroaching on another. Usually, it's the Earth of both universe coming together, and one Earth has to be destroyed in order for that universe to be spared. At least that was the logic in the comics. And we didn't get a lot of multiverse. Like we have that really trippy transport through the various multiversal realms because of America Chavez's powers in that movie, which I really dug. My biggest problem with Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, and I really did love it, one, it's a known fact that the writers of this movie were told not to watch WandaVision.
Which is a problem.
Yeah, because they and even Elizabeth Olsen has said like why she was talking in an interview, I think on like a Vanity Fair video, like the writers of the movie weren't like, this is Wanda post WandaVision. Why wouldn't they take that into account? But spectacle and
it's
drama.
because they don't want people to watch the shows. They don't want to force people to watch the shows in order to follow the movies. And that, I think, has become the crux of the problem between the shows and the movies. Because the reality is you really should be watching the shows in order to follow what's going on in the movies.
There's some quality stuff. You don't have to watch every series. Like,
you don't have to watch everything.
I've seen people complain in regards to TV shows, as we kind of talk about that a little bit, is a lot of people, even if they are interested in the shows, it's like my co-host Ben Carver on my other show, Comic Connoisseurs, he hates homework. And homework to Ben is anytime there is tie-in novels or comic books or something in a video game that you wouldn't understand the story of the movie unless you read this stuff. And he feels like, well, if I have to do this, the movie's not that good. A good example of that is how when we went to see Rise of Skywalker?
Rise of Skywalker.
And you open it up.
The Palpatine returns bit.
Me and like three guys in the theater yelled out, when the fuck did that happen? Because no one heard about the Fortnite thing until they saw the movie. So I can understand someone's reluctance to watch the shows, although I would really recommend it. I mean, WandaVision was excellent. I love the whole sitcom narrative to explore her trauma. I don't know why everyone got so hung up on it's Mephisto, just because that's a character in the comics, and of course it's the devil.
Spoilers for supposedly Ironheart, which will come out at some point next year. Most likely. Mephisto is rumored to be Sacha Baron Cohen, and he's going to show up in Ironheart.
You know what? I'm okay with that casting, but I think that's the wrong series for Mephisto to show up in.
Well, the Hood is going to be a major antagonist in Ironheart, so kind of makes sense.
That. Parker Robbins, cool. I mean, Falcon and Winter Soldier is a very stereotypical action movie.
What happened with Falcon Winter Soldier, I will point this out. We're kind of transitioning into the TV shows, FYI, guys. But what happened with Falcon Winter Soldier, do you know what the original plot was?
It was something about like a virus or something?
Yeah, it was literally a pandemic.
And then reality happened.
And then reality happened, and they went, oh fuck. And had to reconfigure what they had to make it seem somewhat sensible.
Okay, that makes
the reality was it turned into a mess.
Yeah, and I did dig that. I like how they used the character of Flag Smasher, who in the comics is this numbnuts with a giant mace and a monochromatic costume, who's like, destroy all countries, live free, no borders, and turned it into this like kind of subversive, angry young people uprising sort of movement. We got more of Daniel Bruhl as Baron Helmut Zemo. He wore the coat, he had the mask. I was happy.
Yes.
And I could spoiler show, folks, if you haven't seen that series, I could give less than 2.
He's the best part of it, unfortunately.
And here's the thing. He is, I don't know if they've confirmed anything, but he is probably showing up in Thunderbolts.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%.
And and I bet you he's going to be the antagonist of Thunderbolts.
And by the end of it, they go off and become like Baron Zemo's Thunderbolts. I would almost put money on that. I like Falcon and Winter Soldier. I love the whole Riggs and Murtaugh thing with Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan. That's honestly my favorite bit about the show. I could give less than 2 titty twists about Sharon Carter being the power broker. I mean,
that was out of friggin' nowhere, and it was just like, there's no way she is, and then it turns out she is, and you're just like on, oh, that kind of sucks.
The only way that makes sense is if some of the fan theories, when we get into when you talk about Secret Invasion, that she was a Skrull or something, was never, that was the fan theory. It was never said in the show.
Yeah, that would have solved a lot of issues.
I want to. We got a couple of series in between here, but I have to go to my biggest disappointment with the Marvel TV shows in Phase 4, She-Hulk.
See, I really liked it, but I thought it could have been a lot better.
That's my problem. I hesitate to reference this film. I kind of like it, but The Mummy 2017, there was so much freaking potential with that. Not just the dark universe, cinematic universe that universe was going to do, but the film in and of itself. Because
yeah, honestly, with She-Hulk, is my main gripe is like I wanted more law.
Yeah, and
I wanted the more law aspects and not the other stuff that most of that show was.
Like, it was like a law comedy-ish.
If I wanted to watch Ally McBeal, I'd watch Ally goddamn McBeal.
I wanted more of that aspect of it. And if it followed more of that aspect of it, it would have been, to me, more interesting. It's still watchable, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It just isn't completely perfect.
Yeah.
For me, oh, sorry, JT, go ahead.
No, you go, Mike, you go.
Yeah, like one of my big problems with all the Marvel shows, like I'm looking at a list right now just to very quickly go through it. WandaVision, loved it. People talked about it. Falcon and Winter Soldier, didn't love it, but people talked. Loki, universally loved. What If, people talked about it, then kind of forgot about it. Hawkeye is one of my favorites because of Haley Stanfield. Hawkeye's my Avenger. And that Rogers the Musical, I watch that more often than what is probably healthy. Moon Knight is a show I wanted to love, specifically because Ken had said something in like a chat like a million years ago, and it really got me excited for it. I sat through 3 episodes, and I was like, Jesus, can something happen already? And I felt like that series specifically, and if I'm off the mark here, guys, tell me. I felt like that was a victim of Star Wars. What I mean by that is, hey, kids, it's Oscar Isaacs. Remember Poe Dameron? And it felt like it was the Oscar Isaacs show. And
because it was.
It's like, here's the Oscar Isaacs show starring Marvel. And it never captured me. I didn't care. Oh, hey, kids, do you remember Ethan Hawke? Okay, sure. And Miss Marvel was Scott Pilgrim meets Marvel, which is fine, but people forgot about it after episode 2. And She-Hulk, all the people who claim woke is bad and blah, 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 that show got talked about for all the wrong reasons, but it brought back Daredevil, which people loved. It reestablished him as canon in the Marvel Universe. And then they dropped this bombshell. Oh, by the way, Hulk has a son. By the way, here's the big bad guy. Here is Kevin, this robot who lives in the ceiling. It's okay.
It's analogy. This is the brain fart. What I don't like about She-Hulk is a lot of the same things I didn't like about that Dukes of Hazzard movie that the Broken Lizard guys did like 15 years ago. And that being is they took all the things that they thought people would like about the character and only ran with that. Now, like you said, I could go for a mix of lawyer and rom-com. I really don't have a problem with that. Tatiana Maslany is Jennifer Walters for me forever now. And
oh yeah,
yes,
the way she broke the fourth wall almost as good as Daredevil, but better than Zach Morris. And I don't say that lightly, but the biggest, like you say, that where she breaks it, and it's in the comics where she'll walk between panels in her own comic with the John Byrne, the Sensational She-Hulk series. That was great. And I know that's what they were going for there. And I prayed that we weren't going to get like a big CGI slobber knocker at the end. But just literally have her go and talk to Kevin and then go back to the show and it's all over. I wanted her to take the douche bros to court. I wanted to see Jennifer Walters Hulk smash in the courtroom.
Exactly. Just like the idea is just focus on the courtroom. Don't focus on the. Yeah. I think they wanted to distinguish it away from the courtroom, but the courtroom was the interesting bit.
Yeah,
and that's what sold the show.
Yeah, I mean, the most courtroom stuff we got in She-Hulk was that bit where they're taking that douche bro that was talking shit about Jennifer online. It's like, yes, he's actually delusional enough to believe that Megan Thee Stallion would go out with him. And then we get longer than was even remotely necessary twerking scene. Like, why? But
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so and
Thanks,
I mean,
JT.
Miss Marvel. Yeah, I'm sorry. If I have to suffer, you have to suffer. You know,
fair enough.
The best part of Miss Marvel was its lead.
Oh yeah, Iman Vellani, that girl, born and bred Canadian young actress. She is a nerd before she was Miss Marvel. I love that she's actually going to be writing the new Miss Marvel comic that's coming out this fall. Now that she's officially been called named a mutant in the comics, like she's a mutant and an Inhuman in the comics because, well, they put too much time and effort in making her an Inhuman, but explaining her powers as being also mutant now because synergy. But I mean, the show was great. I think they kind of dallied on the whole clandestine bit a little too much, and that's a deep cut to a one and done Marvel miniseries from like the mid 90s that I for some reason remember reading. But the long, like, what do you if you're a comic fan, what do you remember most about the Miss Marvel series? The 2-second sting of a Marvel cinematic rendition of the X-Men theme when it's revealed that there's something mutated in her.
Yeah, I think that the big thing with Miss Marvel is, and what the Marvels is going to show is Iman Vellani is a friggin' superstar, and she is going to steal the entire fucking movie.
What's the phrase? She is too pure for this world, and she must be protected at all costs.
Exactly.
Moon Knight. I am a huge Moon Knight fan. I think the reason the writing in that show, and I will try and keep this as brief as possible, is for good or ill, Moon Knight and like Black Panther, they are Marvel's Batman. Specifically Moon Knight. Now, originally the DID wasn't a thing in the comics. He just had, instead of having just one Matches Malone, he had two. And over time it built to where eventually they revealed that these aren't just masks, these are actual alternate personalities. You know, he's sick in the head like this. I was cool with all that. But they went a little... They went just so far into the magic and then pulled back, and they went in and they pulled back. Like, they weren't willing to commit to anything. I love how they changed Steven versus him being this Wall Street, like the Bruce Wayne of Moon Knight. He's this like little nebbish, works in a museum. Like, it's a testament to Oscar Isaac's, acting ability. He's playing the Thing with three heads. F. Murray Abraham as Khonshu he's my Joe Grizzly in that series.
Perfect casting on that front.
Ethan Hawke, I'm sorry. How smart, how infallible are these gods that are speaking through their avatars? You guys can't see the big villains standing in front of you, lying to your, omniscient faces. Hawkeye, no notes. Florence Pugh is the best thing about that series.
Yes.
There's a reason why a thick, bad Russian accent is one of my turn-ons, and she had that on in full effect.
I personally, I've said this on the Twig main show when we talked about it, but like Hawkeye is my least favorite out of the shows, simply because I just thought it was a mess. Secret Invasion is like right above it in terms of my Secret Invasion had so much potential. I was willing to give it the benefit of the doubt till the end, and holy crap, what the fuck.
So if you couldn't tell by my beleaguered grown people, I did not like Secret Invasion. The first 2 episodes, I was cool. We got that Captain America Winter Soldier 70s spy thriller
Right.
potboiler effect going on.
And then you have Ben Mendelsohn acting his freaking ass off.
Yeah. I just got to look up his name there that played Gravik, because Kingsley Ben Adir as Gravik. That dude is my Joe Grizzly in that series. He was lifting the world like he was Atlas in that show. Like that bit in the last episode where, you see this face? This is the first guy I killed for you, Fury. And like, he is chewing every inch of scenery, and it was so good. But how do we end this, what could have been great spy thriller? CGI slobber knocker, and all of a sudden we've got this, well, she's the most powerful hero in the Marvel universe now. I was like,
good luck seeing her again.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're never going to see her again. And because of all throughout the early 2000s till now, like every other couple of months, Marvel and DC would put out these huge crossovers, and nothing shall be the same again. Secret Invasion is one of the few Marvel things that I dug, that I've put time into figuring out the best reading order of all the tie-in miniseries, like separating the wheat from the chaff, because the idea of the years in the making because of the comic book Illuminati, which is Doctor Strange, Namor, Black Bolt, Iron Man, Mr. Fantastic, and Professor X. They go to, after the Kree Skull World, they go to the Skrull homeworld. They talk some shit. They get their shit wrecked. They escape. The Skrulls have begun their years-long takeover of Earth, and then they almost succeed before Norman Osborn one-shots the Skrull Queen and becomes the new Nick Fury. In this show, Fury fucked off into the space at the end of it, and that's about the sum total of what happened. Like, Mike, I'm sorry.
And the U.S. president has enacted a war on all metahumans.
And I guarantee you that's why Thunderbolt Ross becomes president. Now, I'm sorry for babbling so much, Mike.
Well, no, like
your thoughts here.
Like, looking at Secret Invasion, it was billed as like supposed to be this thing that'll change the face of the Marvel universe forever, and it did not in its intended way. Like, there's a line where somebody says, "Well, Fury, why don't you call your friends? This is something I gotta do on my own." Fuck you. Why? It was a budget thing. It was a budget thing. But the thing is, you look at it on a deeper storytelling level. Fury says at one point, I had everybody go out and collect DNA. Every Avenger spilled blood that day, even Carol Danvers. Okay, you're telling this, you kept this from Bucky, you kept this from Rhodey, you kept this from Thor. These people are supposed to be your buddies, your homies. And you kept this from them. This shows you don't trust them.
To be fair, Nick Fury doesn't trust anyone. Even that's all the way back in the first Avengers film where he he would trust Steve Rogers, he would trust Natalia. There were people he trusted, but that circle was remarkably small. My point is, this wasn't very well thought out, and then changing the power dynamic, as JT said, with Gaia now being the most powerful character ever. We're never going to see we're never going to see her again, because it's something Ken said. They don't want the shows to become homework. So if Emilia Clarke randomly shows up at the end of something, a lot of people are going to be like, who the hell's that? There was no post-credit scene to set up the Marvels. It's just, oh yeah, I'm going back to my spaceship now. And he poochied himself off of Earth. Yeah. So in essence, other than the fact that President Ritson, I think is his name, has established war on all alien life. Okay, it is well known, from what I can tell, that Rocket exists, Thor exists, there's a colony of Asgardians. You've established that Groot the Asgardians that are on Earth, by the way.
Yeah, that are just hanging out, living their life. I'm sorry, these people risked their lives at the Battle of the Avengers compound. Oh yeah, fuck you, you die now. No, it changed the meta.
It feels like they are trying to set up like the whole battle, the whole attacking metahumans. It feels like they're setting up X-Men. but they can't fully set up X-Men just yet because of the contracts that Fox did.
Yeah,
and that will. And by the way, that's why Deadpool's killing the Fox universe, because they got to kill all the actors that still are contracted by Fox, because for some particular reason, the way Fox's contracts worked is they have first denial on any appearances of their character in subsequent movies over the course of, I think it was like 5-6 years or something stupid like that.
And to speak about my one thing about the X-Men, what I see as a way for them to introduce the mutants in the MCU without having to do like any multiversal shenanigans is you've had 2 snaps on Earth. That had to have ticked off something in the human genome to create mutants. And
people have been speculating what the heck is going to create mutants, and like maybe the snap.
That's the most likely thing. And I mentioned the comic book Illuminati, and just to bring it back to the Multiverse of Madness, one of the ideas put into my head by the Screen Crush videos was the wasted potential of the cast of member berries that was the Illuminati in Multiverse of Madness. Now,
they all got murked.
I love the fact that John Krasinski got to play Mr. Fantastic one time. I'm still finger crossed him and the missus get to play the power couple of the MCU.
They've already supposedly once the strike's over, they'll officially confirm it. But Vanessa Kirby, who is the
Statham's sister in Hobbs and Shaw.
The Hobbs and Shaw, and also she is in the Mission Impossible series as the granddaughter of the girl who granddaughter of the woman in the first movie.
Okay. And like I love the fact we got to see Patrick Stewart play Professor X in the
one last
yellow
time.
Yeah, the yellow hover chair. I mean the casting was all wrong. Maria Rambeau as Captain Marvel, I don't care. We got to see Peggy Carter.
We got to
as
see Captain Carter.
Yeah. And that woman, like Iman Vellani, is too precious for this world and must be protected at all costs. But what Screen Trust put forward, the wasted potential there, it's just member berries. I will say we did get a small moment of redemption for Anson Mount, who got to play a proper Black Bolt instead of that TV show that we're not going to talk about.
Yeah.
About the only good thing in that series was Lockjaw, and I will die on that hill. But what Ryan said in the video was it should have been a council of Doctor Stranges. It should have been Benedict Cumberbatch putting on a grandstand performance as like 4 or 5 different versions of Doctor Strange. That would have made sense.
Yeah. And that would have instead of doing the whole member berries thing, which leaked way too soon.
Oh yeah.
On that movie, doing a Council of Stranges is probably the better idea. I mean, also just like Baron Mordo being there just cuz.
Because hey guys, remember I'm his nemesis. Remember, please.
Yeah,
which,
I need that.
Please. Well, the problem is like supposedly this is what was going to happen in before Scott Derrickson left. Supposedly his pitch for Doctor Strange 2 was Nightmare. And he would have to team up with Mordo to fight Nightmare. That was the plan.
Nightmare being
that was Derrickson's plan anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And for our listeners, Nightmare is one of Doctor Strange's rogues gallery. He is the living personification of nightmares in the dream realm, is in a constant thorn in Doctor Strange's side. Nightmare is what the Scarecrow in Batman wishes he could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got that Doctor Strange, Thor Love and Thunder, like Mike said, it's Taika Waititiing all over the place.
Taika Waititi unhinged.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, we got the Animal House version of an Asgard boat with you got the screaming goats that are Holly, which were honestly some of my favorite bits.
Oh yeah,
I didn't.
them running into the planet killed me in the theater.
Christian Bale was great as Gore. I loved his performance. He went a little Jack Nicholson Joker when he was tormenting the kids. Like, I read some of the comics that the plot, like Gore the God Butcher, is based on, and he didn't really come off as a villain. He came off as, a father looking to get revenge on the world for his daughter dying. Like, he was a little too empathetic for me to really consider him a bad guy.
Well, the problem is, like, Taika Waititi always plays with the drama and the comedy. And the problem with Love and Thunder was it was too much comedy that it killed all the drama.
Yeah. You know what the sad thing is? The most dramatic element of the movie for me was when Korg got one-shotted. I was more concerned about my boy crumbling into gravel because that dickbag Russell Crowe, who was playing Zeus, like, deliciously, by the way, like, there was no scenery left unchewed in his performance.
What even was that accent?
Australian Greek.
Russell Crowe-ing?
And I can't remember. It's one of the main actors from Ted Lasso shows up in that probably gonna go nowhere
Hercules
scene as like the modern Hercules, like where he finally admitted he was an alcoholic and got his shit together. But yeah. Like that movie did, and when you kind of look at the TV shows, like Hawkeye, I dug, like I said. What If? I wanted more. And you know what? There should have been 10 episodes, because you look at the final one where Uatu goes to recruit the Gamora for the Guardians of the Multiverse team. And you see Tony Stark in that jacked up armor talking about putting a suit of armor around the universe. There is reportedly a missing thing where he gets stranded in outer space after the end of Avengers and then meets Gamora and he becomes Star-Lord. Sort of thing. But What If was great.
I don't like What If.
I think there was inconsistency with it.
The animation is what pissed me off the most, because I hate the animation. And I'm an animation guy. Not even the CG. The way they animated the CG, it just looks bad to me.
Yeah, no, I get that. Like,
it's weird.
When I say I liked What If, like, I love the story. I love multiverse.
Oh, I love the story. The stories were actually genuinely good. I've really enjoyed it. I think it was too. Some of the stories were too short. It needed to be longer, and for some particular reason, this is a problem with Disney Plus in general with their TV shows. Mm-hmm. They're sticking to a TV format instead of letting stuff breathe.
Yeah, and like I said, I love the stories. I love the fact that they got Chris Hemsworth to do douche bro Thor. What if Thor went to college? I love that. The Iron Man episode with Killmonger, we got Michael B. Jordan to play Killmonger again. I love the line where, why do these things look, what? I like anime. And I was like, that's my boy. You stand up and represent for our people. And I mean that by fans, not black or anything. But out of this lineup of TV shows, my favorite, like, I love WandaVision. My favorite was Loki.
Hands down.
Loki surprised me in a lot of ways, because it was the series I gave the least amount of shits, and I will gladly eat my words for the rest of my life.
And I agree with you, Mike. That is exactly. I didn't give that much of a crap about the show going in, but by the end, this was kind of my be all and my end all. But yeah, Tom Hiddleston showing range as Loki. I mean, not that he didn't show range as Loki.
It is the ultimate. The way I explain it, it's Doctor Who only with a Disney Marvel budget.
What if the Doctor was Loki? Yeah, it's beautiful. I because I know for me with the minutia and the time variance authority and travel in the multiverse like this, it was great. I love the setup. Like Jonathan Majors as He Who Remains is one of my favorite performances in this series because he's trained as a clown. Like he went to clown college basically, and he used that with his performance. That apparently there's somewhere the scene where we cross the threshold line, it syncs up with something else in one of the movies, I forget which, about stuff changing.
WandaVision. It actually syncs up with WandaVision.
That's it. Now, love Loki. We got to do a deep dive on that sometime. But if we move over,
maybe after season 2.
Yeah. Very quickly, as we could kind of bring up the TV to end here, the 2 holiday specials they put out. Chef's kiss. No notes. If you don't like the Guardians holiday special and Werewolf by fucking Night, you don't like comic books.
The Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, I like. I think I'm not a huge Guardians fan, to be perfectly frank. I think they're just okay for the most part. Guardians 3 is still the best one out of the 3 of them. And the holiday special, I just put like in my listing, I put it right above Volume 2.
Yeah.
Which is right, and like all 3 Guardians are like smack dab in the middle of my Marvel listings.
If I do worst to best, it's Guardians 1, holiday special, Guardians 3, and Guardians 2. Because as much as I love Spider-Man, he's my favorite Marvel character. If I had a spirit animal in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's Star-Lord. Like that would be me if I got kidnapped by aliens as a kid. And my dad, for good or ill, and I know he's not perfect, God rest his soul, he was Yondu. And like the end of the Iron Giant, every time I watch Volume 2, I start crying as soon as he says he may have been your father, but he ain't your daddy.
Yeah.
Because that was my dad. But Werewolf by Knife is possibly my favorite one out of these 2 because I love horror movies. I love horror comics. I love the fact that they shot it in black and white, and the only thing in color till the end was the Bloodstone. You got references to vampires. The most one-to-one screen accurate translation of a Marvel comic book character yet on to be surpassed in the film with Jack Russell's werewolf, because that literally looks like the Werewolf by Night from the original 70s comics.
Well, that was the intention. If you've seen there's a whole little documentary series that Giacchino did with his brother about talking about everything. Like his brother, I think, is the director of the documentary that they did. But it's mostly just him talking about all the things that they grew up on. It's kind of a look at Giacchino as a person, but also what he's doing with Werewolf by Night and living his dream of doing this kind of thing. I'm if they ever come back to that world, maybe after Blade, if Blade even gets up off the ground, because that's a cluster F in of itself.
Yeah.
But like, I would love to see him return to this universe.
Yeah. And
I guess as we begin to wrap up the show here, how do you let's be real. Marvel's got a problem. Is it an unsolvable problem? No. How do you get butts back in seats? And that's a secondary problem. How do you get the ship right to get people excited? Because I think that's the biggest problem. I mean, the movies, there has been some good ones in phases 4 and 5, but they're not staying with you beyond a couple of days, maybe a couple of months. But we haven't had a moment that makes you get up and cheer yet, outside of maybe Spider-Man. And maybe the Illuminati with Professor X. And I think that's maybe. What do you do? I think for me, if I were to propose a strategy, is I saw somebody come up with this idea, and I don't think it's a bad one. So let's say the whole Jonathan Majors things goes in not a good direction. Okay. We know an Avengers team up film is coming, but there's no connective tissue right now to get the band back together. So maybe put in a smaller stakes Avengers movie right now that sets the stage for everybody to come back together. Because they've kind of hinted at the young Avengers, but I'm pretty sure Cassie Lang's not going to be hanging out with Wanda's fake kids, and we're not going to get, all that stuff to happen anytime in the next year and a half. It is not going to happen. But you could introduce a smaller Marvel threat. I'm not saying it has to be like I don't know. It doesn't need to be Kang. It doesn't need to be Thanos level. It doesn't even need to be Ultron.
Do a more earthly threat.
Yeah, like you need literally the equivalent of Cobra Commander as a bad guy to unite the heroes to get everybody back out of retirement and to pass the mantle properly. Zemo. Yeah. So like you need that, and I think the idea is produce. I would rather have less Marvel shows and movies if the quality's higher. And if you're going to do weird experimental things like Werewolf by Night and the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, take the time to do it right. I would be totally fine with that. Would I love Marvel Zombies? Yes, because me and JT have talked about that. But at the same time, I'd much rather have stuff of substance, stuff that matters to the narrative going forward. But I also don't want people to necessarily have homework. I want it, if it's going to be supplemental, let it stand on its own. And if you want to enjoy it, you see a movie, maybe you'll get something a bit more fun out of it. Making it necessary viewing is only going to alienate viewers.
Yeah.
So I guess finally, someone came up with a theory, and I saw this on Reddit, and I actually think it's a pretty good one. So the TLDR of this is Loki starts to establish a new TVA, and because the kid who plays Short Round, he has a symbol on his jacket, and it's a Ouroboros, which is a snake eating its own tail. And in Norse mythology, from what I understand, that is actually Loki's son. So by creating a new sacred timeline, Loki is protecting the multiverse from new Kang variants. So if a new Kang variant shows up that doesn't look like Jonathan Majors, there's your out. And you can reset the timeline, and the multiverse phase or whatever of Marvel can just be an unpleasantness that happened to last a couple of years. That's how I might write the ship, because you can course correct now if you want. Like, you don't necessarily need to follow up on what happened in Eternals. As much as I love Pip the Troll being Patton Oswalt, I'm never going to see Harry Styles as Star Fox, and you know what? I'm fine with that. The Thunderbolts is a cool idea, but
it's already they already started filming, so that movie's going to be in the can.
But I don't know if they're going to do the whole dark of Avengers thing properly, because I don't think they've laid the solid enough groundwork yet. So right now it's right the ship. Give us the water cooler talk that we want. Give us less, but give us better quality. That's what I would do. So let's go to Ken, and then we'll finish out the show with JT.
So I think they're already in the process of doing what I think they're going to do, and that is to see what they have, step back, look at what we have in the can already. So we got the Marvels. We've got Echo. We've got Loki season 2. We've got Ironheart. All those things, try and put them out as soon as possible. Kind of, in the terms of Echo, probably brush that under the rug and just like, again, they're gonna just supposedly dump it after Loki stops airing or whatever in November. And they're hiding it from the release. We talked about that as of this probably by the time you listen to this, 2 Twig main shows ago. But just brush as much as you can from the Chapek era of Disney Marvel under the rug. Just keep it coming out, but not really giving it super fanfare bullshit. Use Captain America Brave New World as a fresh start of, okay, this is what we're doing. And then move it and then go from there. I think that's what they're doing right now. We'll see what happens once the strikes are over and stuff starts getting back into production.
All right, JT,
what do you got?
Yeah. One thing about Werewolf Finally is it gives me hope for the future that we could someday see the Midnight Suns in the Marvel Cinematic Universe years down the line. I'll be happy with what I get whenever they get around to Ghost Rider. I agree with Mike. We need to. I think there needs to be a separation. Like in comics, like back in the 60s, like you could have Daredevil swinging through a couple of panels in a Spider-Man comic. We need to understand that all these characters, all these different worlds, these stories are in one universe, but they don't have to tie in to everyone, which is why I'm kind of worried about Daredevil Born Again when that comes out, because again, it's the writing. We need to have comic fans in the room. We need to have comic fans working with Hollywood writers to balance out the cinematic with the comic book. That's the biggest thing I think the problem is going forward. And say what you will about everything so far. I agree with Mike. The biggest problem, there's too much. They're just simply too much. We need to streamline maybe 3 movies a year, 1 or 2 TV shows. Look at what worked with phases 1 through 3 and realize you're probably never going to get that good again, because honestly, I kind of low-key think they should have just ended it with Endgame, because they went so far. I think the bar is a little too high. But one quick thing before we sign off here, guys, I want to ask you guys, what is any one little particular Joe Grizzly moment for you guys in what we've seen so far? For me, it was Daredevil's Walk of Shame and She-Hulk. I love that sequence.
For me, my Joe Grizzly moment is Supreme Ultron cutting zombie Thanos in half with the Mind Stone in What If.
Mm-hmm. And Ken?
For me, it is Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, the Battle of Music.
Yeah, that was pretty sick.
Oh, yeah, and they got like the dun, 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 dun. Yeah, no, that was great. So yeah, this has been TWIG Sunday Funnies, first of hopefully not many Marvel Cinematic Universe WTF episodes. I have been JT from Saskatoon with
Mike the Birdman.
And Ken from This Anime.
And saying, we'll see you in the funny pages, folks. Later.
Enough said.
Bye.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.
I am Iron Man. You think you're the only superhero in the world? Mr. Stark, you become part of a bigger universe. You just don't know it yet. Who the hell are you? Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.